My name is Eric Van Horn. I bought my first franchise in my 20s, and since then, I've owned 6 brands with 25 stores in 8 states. I've also helped 1,000 people find the right franchise for them. People like us who are not cut out for the 9 to 5 and like to work smarter, not harder. How do we find the right franchise, buy it, grow it, sell it, and how do we do it in a way to own the business without it owning us? Those are the questions, and I'm on a mission to give you the answers. Welcome to Franchise Secrets. Welcome to the Franchise Secrets podcast. Eric here with today's guest, Jeff Fenster. Now, this is going to be an episode format that we've never done before. And this is an episode that I've been getting a lot of requests for, a format where I do a deep dive with a franchise and dig into the brand because of my experience in the last 18 years investigating franchises and helping people investigate franchises. So I wanted my friend Jeff on here. We met about a year ago, and we have some mutual friends, and he's doing some really cool stuff in the food space, the QSR space. I don't even know what you call it, Jeff, but I wanted to get you in here because you have some really unique things that you're doing in your brand. And I've been hearing just yesterday, I heard people that were listening to the podcast that were buying just different brands. And so I thought, you know what? I want to do beyond just an interview with the founder, but I want to get into the brand. And so that's why we're here today. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, man. Obviously, as you said, we've known each other for a while now, so it's truly an honor and privilege. Big fan of your show and you. So thank you for having me, man.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to get into the brand, but disclaimer, like this is not, I'm not telling you to buy a franchise. I'm not, this is, is you listen to this show, you are making a decision. This is me just giving some information out there. I'm making no money in any way from this particular show. Jeff, why don't you give a little bit of your background to give the audience some context into who you are, your story, and then I want to get into the business model.
Background, I'm an entrepreneur, a serial entrepreneur. Fell into it, had no idea that that's what I was going to become or be. I went to law school to be a sports agent, had a job lined up, and was graduating law school. It was my 3rd year. Ended up getting engaged, having a daughter, and realizing that I didn't want to travel the world representing grown-ups. I was going to be more of a present parent and wanted to be involved in my kids' lives. And jokingly, I say I didn't want to have adult kids. I had little kids, so I didn't need to babysit. And so I graduated law school with no real idea or plan on who I was or what I was going to do. Just had 6 figures of law school loans and a bunch of mouths that I had to start taking care of. And so I got a job at ADP selling payroll services, which sounds as much fun as when I say it. And fortunately, I had spent a lot of time interning and learning and being around a lot of great people growing up. So I had a ton of experience in solution-based selling and how to sell stuff. And so I immediately utilized relationship capital, my friends, to instantly become the number 1 sales rep in the company. First 6 months there, first to make President's Club, made a lot of money, built a big ego. I was 24. And I went to my boss in January and said, listen, I'd like my bonus that I earned, the $17,000 annual bonus. And my boss informed me that it was an annual goal and I'd get it at the end of the fiscal year. And the fiscal year wasn't until end of June. So I'd get it the 3rd week of July. And I just remember feeling like, this was not the kind of life I wanted. I didn't want to be stuck working my ass off, waiting for some arbitrary date in the future to get my reward. I really wanted to earn what I kill, so to speak, on a daily basis. And if I earn it, give it to me. And if I don't, I don't. But the fact that I had to wait was really just like this weight on my chest. So I went home that night, vented to my fiance, and basically said, listen, I'd like to quit, start my own payroll company. And in order to do that, we got to sell the house we just bought and move in with my parents and bring Olivia, our daughter. And luckily she was my fiance and supportive and said yes. So literally the next day I went in, quit my job, sold my house, moved my wife, or my fiance at the time, and my daughter into my parents' house and started my own payroll company out of my mom's kitchen. And that was kind of my foray into entrepreneurship. Back then we were called business owners because entrepreneur wasn't really a word and it wasn't sexy yet, and started. And so that was in 2008, grew that with a partner. We ended up raising private equity capital, expanded nationwide, and we sold in 2011. Simultaneously, I'd started a recruiting agency because I started to really ask my customers what their main issues were. And it would happen to be, I started the company at the height of the first financial crisis. So my timing was impeccable. Big problem they were having was they couldn't find talent. They couldn't grow because the unemployment pool was so high that they couldn't decipher between all the resumes, and the people who had jobs weren't leaving because they were scared
Mhm.
that with the recession and everything. So I started a recruiting agency just to help them. And when I sold the payroll business, I didn't need that anymore, so I sold that 6 months later. 2012 was really the year of learning. Sometimes you win, sometimes you learn, and I learned a lot in 2012. Started a bunch of things that just didn't work out, and then 2013 decided I wanted to start a digital marketing agency. And so I started partnering with a guy named Neil Patel, and we helped a lot of major brands grow their online presence, help conversion rate optimization, do a lot of fun, cool things digitally. And we worked with some of the biggest websites on the internet, which was a lot of fun. And then in 2000, and sold that in 2015, and then 2016 was kind of driving my wife and kids crazy. And my wife said, "Go do something you're truly passionate about." And besides my family and startups, health and wellness is my biggest passion, and I really want to help solve the eating crisis in America and why some of the conditions we're dealing with, heart disease, stroke, obesity, cancer, diabetes. When you see the science that 80% of these are preventable or delayable based on lifestyle, moving our body and eating real food. So I realized there's a huge opportunity for me to combine my three biggest passions of health and wellness, startups, and my family, and do this. And so I launched Everbowl in October 2016.
What you just described, it's a just a good overview. And in a normal podcast, we wouldn't even get to where we are now, the why behind Everbowl, because we could spend a lot of time on relationship capital. One of the first things that you said and why you were successful at ADP was relationship capital. You skimmed over some other stuff, and then you like how you took what your customers were telling you, learned that, started something different, and then you partnered with Neil Patel. And anybody that's in the internet marketing space, people like the word Neil Patel, the name carries a ton of weight. In the franchise space, not so much, but in the business that you were in, you being partners with Neil is a really big deal. And Neil does some really, really cool stuff now. And so obviously for you to have a partnership, I could have spent a podcast episode just diving into that. But now here we are. So I just want the audience to gain some perspective of that, because I know some of the things that you talk about with relationship capital and understanding your customers and the partnership with Neil. A lot of really impressive stuff. That's for another day. But we are here to talk about Everbowl and the why behind Everbowl now. So I just wanted to bring that into the podcast so the listeners can gain some perspective on that. But what is the why behind Everbowl?
The why is to live an unevolved lifestyle. You see it on the back of my shirt. You can see it,
Mm-hmm.
or on my back of my hat. You see it on my shirt. It's our why. It's a word we created and trademarked. It's in all of our stores. It's on the front of all of our employees' t-shirts. And it means to move and eat the way you were meant to, live actively, and eat stuff that's been around forever. Everbowl's tagline is made from stuff that's been around forever. So Everbowl is the eating component of the unevolved lifestyle, which is you're making a commitment to move your body and eat real food, stuff that is not laboratory created, not manufactured in a kitchen with fake ingredients, but just stuff that's been around forever. Your body knows how to process it. You know how to be your best self. Understanding the why unevolved, you think it's easy, right? Oh, I need to eat healthy and I'll be healthy. But the problem is we as humans don't act that way. It's funny that we know the right things to do, but we don't do it anyway because of a lot of different reasons. And so I spend some time understanding or trying to understand what are the excuses we make and why we're choosing unhealthy options all the time, right? Because we eat so many
Mm-hmm.
times a day, people are making bad choices. And so I summed them up into four excuses. And those four excuses we as humans make to eat unhealthy is one, we believe eating healthy doesn't taste good. Two, we believe it costs too much to eat healthy. Three, we think it won't leave us full and satisfied. Like if we just eat a salad, we'd rather have a burger and fries. Or four, we just can't get it. We're in a hurry. We have a small window of opportunity or time to eat. So we go eat fast food or we go to a strip mall and we take what's available. With Everbowl, our why is to help promote an unevolved lifestyle and to make healthy food affordable, filling, delicious, and accessible so we can negate those excuses and make it part of your routine so you continue to unevolve on a daily basis, be your best version of your best self, and at the same time, we get to grow and scale a great business, and our customers all get to leave being healthy, happy, and satisfied. And so that is the true why behind Everbowl. And so everything we've done is to reverse engineer those four and solve those four.
The company that has a big why behind it, because you've made a lot of money doing other things, and this is combines your passion and other things. So you can have a why behind this, and you obviously have a why. And I've, talked to thousands of people wanting to buy franchises. Sometimes that's really important and sometimes it's not. The
Hmm.
purpose of this is I want to highlight the important things and the really good things about this brand. So if you're out there and you want to be a part of a brand that has a strong why, you want to have a brand in your community that you're proud of, that you want to say, I own Everbowl in my community, and that why fits with your why. This is a brand, that's one reason to look at this brand. You're going to just hear me throughout this podcast bring in perspective like this because I've dealt with thousands of buyers before, and different people buy for different reasons. But if that why is important to you, then that is one mark that's really good for Everbowl. With that, what is the business? So just go back to the basics of the business. A customer walks in. Who is that customer, and what are they getting when they walk into Everbowl?
Everbowl is craft superfood, quick serve restaurant where we focus primarily on acai and other superfood bowls. We find them all over the world that are high dense, highly nutritious bowls. We have 7 different bases: acai, pitaya, cocoa, blue magic, which is blue green spirulina, and all these fun different flavors. But it's primarily craft superfood bowls focusing on those bases. And then you get unlimited toppings of your choice, all made from stuff that's been around forever. So if you think of what Chipotle did to the Mexican food space, what Panda Express did to Chinese food, what Jersey Mike's did to making a sandwich, we've done to the superfood space. So when you walk in, you're going to have an assembly line where you get to pick all your bases, blend them together, and make something that looks kind of delicious, like the picture right there. And you get to load it with unlimited toppings. We don't nickel and dime you based on which choices you want. You just load them all up from all these different fun seeds, nuts, fruits, nut butters, granolas, chia pudding, ever seeds, like all these different fun things. And you just get to load up and make this delicious bowl all for one price. We have 3 sizes, there's samples. It's really a fun experience. That's what you're going to get inside. But you're additionally who the customer is actually everybody. And that's what has blown us away. When we opened, I expected us truthfully to be very strong in the 15 to 45-year-old female demographic, with the male being dragged along. And then eventually we would win them over. But I've been wrong. Kids eat this because parents are actually replacing the ice cream and the desserts with these because kids think they're dessert. We have flavors that make kids think, oh my God, this is like ice cream. And elderly are coming in because they want to continue to promote longevity and be their best version of themselves. And our male demographic is strong. So we've kind of coined the terminology Everbowl for everybody because it truly is. And the beauty of it has also been that when people come in the first time, they come back. And now that we have the data on that, we understand that we actually can spend a little bit of money to acquire a customer, going back to my digital marketing days, and understanding that the LTV, the lifetime value of these people, is very, very high. We have strong loyalty. We Once we put our flag in the ground, people come back because it does solve those 4 excuses. They found something that is affordable, that is delicious, that is filling, and it's quick and accessible, and they know it's good for them. And so, as a dad, as a human being, as a business owner, knowing 100% of my customers leave better, and no one is hurt by my product, it's just such a fun thing to be a part of, and that has really kind of gotten our Joneses going here on the Everbowl team because what started as a passion play has scaled now into we have over 30 restaurants. That doesn't happen just because we want it to, right? It's the fact that people do genuinely love the product. And I challenge you, whether or not you like one of our competitors better, that's okay because we're still promoting the unevolved lifestyle. So while I want you to come to Everbowl, and please do, if you choose that you like one of our competitors better, as long as you're living that lifestyle, that's great. And we become just an option, an arrow in the quiver of health and wellness and help that promotion. So that's really the experience you're getting inside. And it's really kind of going to have decor similar to the wood you see behind my head.
I like it. I want to get into how you've set this up and to the extent that you went into and I've never seen another franchisor do it to the extent that you have in terms of source materials of things that you
Mhm.
do for the franchisees. I've really never seen anybody do it to the extent that you've done it. I want to get to that a little bit later. Some of the things that you were just in conversation, you go over it so fast and nonchalantly, like even just using the terms LTV, lifetime value of your customer, what it costs to acquire a customer. Those are things out there in the audience as you are listening to franchisors talk. It's one thing for them to say, we are really good at marketing. It's another thing for them to understand the marketing talk. And in a normal presentation or conversation, if they are using terms like LTV, lifetime value of a customer acquisition costs, if they're talking about like my background in digital marketing, if you're hearing things like that, it's beyond just somebody saying that they do something really well. You understand what they're doing really well. An example of that, I'm hiring a marketing person for my franchise, Mighty Dog Roofing. I'm hiring a director of marketing there, and I want them to do content creation and social media marketing and things like that. If they start using the word copy, meaning like really good written posts and things like that, they use the word copy. I know that's somebody that I'm looking for. So I just don't want them to tell me they're good at marketing. I want to understand their language and it's part of their DNA. And obviously, that is a part of your DNA. And that is one of the things that I know that's kind of behind the scenes at Everbowl that makes it so great. And I know other people that are investors and owners in Everbowl that are incredible at this stuff. And I know that they're your advisors. So thank you for that. What's the ownership model like? The person owning, like who is the owner
So of a franchise?
of the franchise? Dan. I mean, Dan's an owner. Who are these owners and what is their involvement into the business? Because a lot of franchises are owner operator. It's a one person going in there. They're kind of the jack of all trades. They're doing everything. Some models out there that I've seen are more, I call them executive ownership, where they will go, a franchisee will buy in, they will work the 40 hours a week or 50 hours a week, create the process, hire someone behind them, and then go on to open up the second one. And then they start living more of the lifestyle. And there's others that are semi-absentee or really absentee from the beginning because like hotels have, management teams that come into place. And that's very much more on the absentee end. There's a lot of semi-absentee where you can hire that director of operations where the franchisor does a lot of the training. So those are kind of the things that I see. And I know you have some unique options for that.
So we actually have kind of hit them all. We really offer all of the above because keep in mind when we started Everbowl, we were never going to franchise. I had no plan on franchising Everbowl. So I built the company to be corporately owned all the way through. The first 28 stores were all corporate stores. So we really understood what we were doing. We turned down franchise requests over and over and over and over and over again. And really, by doing that, it's actually a blessing in disguise because we built the system and this for us to scale and for us to be able to do all these things. And then as a result, when we did finally decide to franchise, it allowed us to create a system that, as you mentioned, I think, and alluded to, that is probably a little bit over the top compared to what most franchisors do. And so that's enabled us to have owner operated franchisees all the way through to the absentee franchisee to the executive groups or a private equity group or a money group that wants to basically buy a whole bunch of them, 20, 30, 40 of them, and then put operations teams in place. And so, like to quote Dan, we do have like our very first franchisee is actually the very first employee I ever hired, Ben Burkhalter. He literally was the very first person ever hired at Everbowl in August of 2016. He helped me open the very first store. He worked with us. And then it was so amazing that he became our first franchisee. He was so in love still with the brand. He had left actually. He worked with us for a few years, went off to do his own thing. When we started franchising, he's like, I want to own a franchise. So he came back. He opened the very first franchise. His brother opened a franchise. Those are owner operators. We have Aaron Wagner from Wags Capital. That's a big capital group. They
Mm-hmm.
bought 20 units, and they have a food service team. So is Aaron in the store making bowls? No, but him and his team, they bought 20 in 5 states, and we've already opened 4 or 5 of them at this point. And I'm not sure when this is going to air, so hopefully we'll have opened 7 or 8 by then. And they're not actually in the store, but they have a food service team. Then we have investors like Dan who are putting money in and saying, look, I don't want to be involved in any aspect of it except the financial component. And that's okay too, because he's able to do that with his resources and network. And so the opportunity as far as how people get involved, whether it's just as a financial arm or they want to be in the nitty gritty and actually make an extra paycheck on top of what an owner makes because they're going to own and operate it and reduce the labor costs and all these other functions, both work. It's just a question of how much money do you want to make out of each store? How many stores do you want? And what are you trying to do with your time? And so I know, as you mentioned, we'll get into that, the whole vertically integrated components of Everbowl later. But the way we've set it up, it allows for all those options.
I think it's really interesting being able to have that a private equity group or a money group coming in like Wax Capital that have purchased a large amount and they're opening them because as a lot of franchisees that I talk to, I mean, I've had private equity buy out some 12 of my locations with Sola Salon when we sold those. It's not common for private equity to come in and buy out franchisees. It's happening with Orange Theory pre-pandemic, and it's happening out there. I think it's going to be more of a common theme. Most of private equity is really reserved for franchisors, but I see them getting into really good business models. And I think the models have to be really strong, the systems and the processes. And I think that's very interesting for anybody out there that is thinking about that has more money than time. They want to get into something, they want to deploy capital. And Jeff, I had a guy that I met, I was actually going to introduce you to him. I met him when I was whitewater rafting in Jackson Hole. He comes from a family office. You know, a family office,
Hmm.
they manage a lot of money and they typically have a lot of money themselves. Got a text from him a couple days ago. He said, "Hey, Erik, I've got $5 million that I need to deploy before the end of the year. What do you have for me?" There are people out there that listen to this podcast that have capital that they want to deploy. They want to buy a franchise. I just got another buddy of mine. You know him too. I'm not going to mention the name. He reached out to me. "Hey, Erik, do you think I should buy a franchise?" And we're going to be talking this weekend. And I said, for most of the time, I would say no, because it's not going to be a good thing. Because I know the level that you're playing at, which is beyond most people, and it's not at the and you don't have the time for it. But an opportunity where there is a somebody before them with a capital group that is doing what they want to do, I think that's super interesting. So again, I just want to point out some things that are unique about Everbowl that I see from my perspective that are different than a lot of models out there. And then I want to get into what we're going to talk about next about vertical integration. And I want to set that up by saying, like at Mighty Dog Roofing, we want to do as many things that we can at the franchisor level so the franchisee doesn't have to do it. If they have to do it once and it takes a lot of their brain power and energy, why can't I do it at the franchisor level? We have a recruiting department to find roofing crews and stuff for them. We want to do those things for the franchisor so the franchisee or the manager on the ground can focus on the things that drive revenue into the business and not focus on all the other things. So I would love for you to spend some time talking about your overall strategy with that.
Keep in mind, again, this is all came started from the concept of we were never franchising. And there's a quote that I really love, and I think it's Abraham Lincoln said it, but maybe it wasn't. But if I had 5 hours to cut down a cherry tree, I'd spend the first 3 hours sharpening my axe. And too many business owners and entrepreneurs lose sight of this. And I think this is why they don't build scalable businesses, because what I wanted to accomplish at Everbowl was I wanted to open a lot of them personally. So I self-funded the first handful of stores, and I didn't want to spend the $250,000 it cost me on the very first one again and again and again. So the very first problem I had when I opened the first store is it cost me $250,000 just in construction. And I said, well, okay, if I want to go open 10 more of these, that's $2.5 million. So what does most entrepreneurs say? Well, let me go raise money. Well, that's one answer, but that doesn't solve the problem. Now I'm just raising money to spend a lot of money building restaurants. Why do restaurants cost so much money? Well, if you know we knew we were going to build so many of these, kind of being this serial entrepreneur and realizing what my strengths were is I'm good at starting companies. So I came up with a concept called We Build Stuff, We Build, and we build our own restaurants. So we started our own fabrication and construction company to build out all of our own stores. So all we do is focus on building out Everbowls, and it was allowed us to drive down the cost from $250,000 to under $100,000 to build the same store. So now that same 10 stores isn't going to cost me 2.5 million; it's going to cost me 1 million. Well, that's much better for me financially. So that was our first major investment back with after our very first store. And since then, we've built every single Everbowl. Now we're able to build them usually in under 45 days for under 100 grand, which allows us to scale exponentially and really hit the ground running. And that also is very enticing to a potential franchisee because they don't have to worry about general contractors and finding all of the construction companies and managing the process and dealing with all that stuff on their end. They basically send us a floor plan that they get from their landlord, whatever lease we ultimately sign, and we actually mock the whole thing up in SketchUp. We send them all the files. They see the store before it's built. They say yes. We build it here in our facility, and then it takes us about 10 days to install a store. So we come out and take care of that entire process for them. We were doing that for ourselves, which allowed us to open 28 of them in 3 years, and we've mastered that process.
This is a perspective that a lot of franchisees, right, or people that are looking at buying a franchise are thinking, well, how much do I have to pay for that? How much is this going to cost me? It is going to cost something. Nothing is done for free, but there's a lot of savings that you get because of material and all kinds of economies of scale that you will be saving. But what you need to be thinking about as somebody that's looking at buying something like this, how much faster can I scale? How much faster can I get to profit? How much faster can I get all my money back? How much faster can I open up my second location that starts to do the same thing? And really, and you need to be thinking about it in those terms, not just pinching the pennies, because I see so many franchisees that get so focused on what am I going to get for my royalty, and they see that as an expense and instead of as an investment. What am I getting back from the franchisor? So I just wanted to bring that in there. So keep going. Number two.
Well, let me actually add one more thing to that. The other component there, right, is, and I think you said it, which is they're worried about all these other elements. But keep in mind, being that we own the construction company, I don't need to make money building the stores, right? My goal is to get you to open stores. So if you want to own a market, and this is how we've been able to sell a lot more 3 and 4 and 5 unit deals, because my argument to you is my competitors will cost you 300 grand to open your franchise, right? On average. For us, we're around 100 to between 100 and 140,000. So I'd rather you open two, maybe even three stores in your market for the same price as one, which is better for economies of scale, brand recognition, your profitability, my profitability on all our sides. Because once you become a franchisee, you're a partner of ours, right? So once you're a partner, I don't need to gouge you on the construction side. A construction company does. They have to make a healthy return. They have to make a profit, right? We don't. So we're able to really facilitate. So that moves us into the second one, which is I import superfoods all over the world, right? We're a superfood store, and it's expensive. I mean, you literally are hand picking acai in Brazil, putting it on a boat, shipping it to a port, and then keeping it frozen and getting it to your facility. And so there's only so many middlemen and women companies that are doing that. It didn't work for us because the price, we had no control over the price. We had no control over the quality. So I went down to Brazil. I met with the locals. We worked with the factories direct. We started bringing it in under our own name and bringing in our own product and really controlling our own supply chain. That allowed us to pass that savings back to our stores, which at the time were corporate stores. So we'd make more money at the store level. But now we get to pass that savings back to our franchisees so they get the savings and they're going to make more money, which allows you to do one of two things: keep your prices the same as competitors and make more money, or lower prices if you need to get into a competitive situation and still make the same amount of money you wanted to make. And again, what that also does is it lets us know with certainty no other concept, no other competitor is using the same stuff, right? Every restaurant uses Coca-Cola. So Coca-Cola is not unique. If I go to one restaurant or another restaurant and I want a Coke, it doesn't really matter what restaurant I go to. You want our acai, you have to come to Everbowl. You want our pitaya, you have to come to Everbowl. And people love the flavors. And once you realize that we have our own flavor, that's one of our key differentiators. So again, the same thing there is you don't have to worry about distribution because Unevolved Products, which is our products division of our company, handles all of your superfoods, all of your dry toppings. So the only thing you have to source locally is going to be fresh fruit, which is what we're going to want to do anyway. And we help set that up for you. We create the relationship for our franchisees with the distributors. So it is a turnkey system for them. And that's the next level component of our vertical integration because we have now controlled two of the major points. And in restaurants, there's this thing called a prime number, and you want your prime number to be 60 or less, basically meaning your labor costs and your food costs less than 60% of your revenue. And if you're doing that, there's a lot of room to make money. And in the superfood space, with the volatility of our prices, you might be there at one point of the year and then see your prices skyrocket on our superfoods, which happened to us. And we wanted to negate that. So we've started importing it ourselves. So our price stays the same all year round. There is no fluctuation. And we can now forecast and project profitability based on revenue without having any uncertainty of, oh my gosh, there's fires in Brazil. What's that going to do to our supply chain? Nothing, because we've already imported enough of it to make sure that we have weathered that storm until it's a better buying time. And so we're basically buying futures, if you will, if for lack of a better word, on our products.
I like that. And this is where it's really important to be aligned with the franchisor's values and to make sure that you get to know the franchisor, because it's a double-edged sword. And because you could just like make a ton of money off of all that food. And I mean, that's the Quiznos example. I mean, they just
Right.
is a disaster. So that's why as a franchisee looking at buying a franchise, you want to be aligned with the values of the founder and the direction that they're going. And that's how you learn that through validation. It's one thing to hear somebody on a podcast, hear somebody during the sales presentation and the signing call, and then you're a franchisee. Then you get to see what it's really like on the inside. And this is when it comes down to validation. This is why validation is so critically important to do. So around validation, talking to franchisees, what are people going to hear? Like if I'm a new franchisee thinking about buying an Everbowl, what am I going to hear talking to your franchisees?
Without me being them, I'm going to speculate. So this is all speculation. But considering our first franchisee was our very first employee who worked with us for multiple years, our second franchisee is the brother of him who worked with us for multiple years. Our third franchisee happened to buy a 20-unit deal in 5 states and has opened a bunch and is now buying more and wants to buy a bunch of our corporate stores and basically take them as franchises. Coupled with the rapid growth, I think what you're going to find is they're happy with the results, even post COVID. I mean, we are doing this after the COVID pandemic. We're in the middle of COVID, excuse me, after what happened. So even despite this, and the food landscape changing, what's
Mhm.
great about Everboy is we immediately created a store through a door model, which allowed us to negate that whole need to sit down and allow social distancing. We launched our app and we're using technology to help promote that. Our food is very quick. You don't need a lot of sophisticated or specialized labor. So it's really simple as far as who you hire. Literally, we have 15-year-olds running our stores, and 16-year-olds can run our stores as one person during a day if it's slow. That sophistication of labor. So it's really easy to find talent. The cogs are very simple to forecast out. We have a very small inventory list. So we've really created this easy system. I don't
Mhm.
want to. I don't. That's not a real name for it. I just kind of trying to articulate it in a way that people will understand. So I think franchisees like it because there's two rules at Everbowl. If you ask any of our 400 employees across all of our stores, there's two simple rules. We go over it at Everbowl University during training, but it is the foundation of our company, and it is make friends and have fun. And that's all we care about because healthy eating is fun. When you're
Mhm.
in a good mood, you want to eat good. And when you eat good, you look good. When you look good, you feel good. When you feel good, you perform good. So it's all good. When you have a really bad day, like really bad day, you tend to eat comfort food. Like you choose to
Mhm.
eat that tub of ice cream or something that's bad for you. So those kinds of people aren't coming into our store because they're just not having a good day. So traditionally, all of our customers are happy. All of our employees are happy. And so as a result of that, I think our franchisees are finding, hey, you know what? This is fun. Like this is really just a hangout. Like it's kind of a cool situation without a lot of complexity. We're not cooking fish where you have to make it right and you have a lot of returns. There's not a lot of mistakes because it's all done for you in front of you. There's no heat, there's no ovens, there's nothing that's going to burn your staff. So there's a lot of things that we've taken out, which re- alleviates a lot of the anxiety or angst that if I was a franchisee or a business owner of another concept might bother me. And it's very quick to open. I mean, just to the whole process. Like I've also had some
That's an
friends that have
important
done.
piece. That's a
Yes.
real important piece. How quick? Like I heard you mention 45 days to build.
Well, I'll give you a great example. So we just opened a store in Farmington, Utah. They signed the lease 23 days later. After the date they signed the lease, we had health inspection passed and we're able to open our store.
Let's go to some rapid fire. What's the square footage of a typical Everbowl?
Anywhere from 600 to 1,000 square feet.
So really small. So anybody out there, just my perspective of that, it's nice to find good space like that. Landlords want to get rid of that space
Cheap.
and you don't have as much, you're not paying as much in rent, obviously. What about typical employees? Like what do they start with and where are they at maturity?
You mean is comp?
Yeah. No, 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 no. How many employees?
Oh,
What does the structure look like? What kind of like, is it a manager and then three seasonal employees?
so we have a store leader and then usually one or two assistant store leaders and then a handful of just regular employees. 8 to 15 employees per store based on volume. Anywhere from and keep in mind, I'll tell you, for the first 20 some odd stores, all of our store leaders started as regular employees, and the majority of them started as seniors in high school, sophomore, juniors in high school, college age. 16 to 24 years old. No prior experience necessary. Can you make friends and have fun? Yes, we can teach you the rest. Our Everdues are very specific, very easy. All of the systems have been processized. Brian Augustine, our chief development officer, has spent so much time and energy building this out to where even our employee handbook, like it's not what you're thinking. It's this little thing that goes in your pocket. It's really rad and it's simple. I mean, we've tried to simplify everything. My oldest daughter, she's 15. She works at our store, and she can close the whole store.
Mhm.
And I'm confident and trust that she can do it. Because we're not open till 2 a.m. You're not dealing with the riffraff hours of where you need to make sure that you're worried about employees walking in their car late at night or any of those other issues.
Give me some idea of the leadership at the corporate office. Who's besides yourself is at the leadership level, and what are their backgrounds and who are they?
So myself, obviously, and then we have Eric Hansen. He's our chief operating officer. His background, he's one of those beautiful combinations of mathematics and art. But he run yeah, it's he's got a great yin yang there of both of those skill sets. His past, he was at Sempra Energy doing wind turbine analytics and fun stuff like that. He was one of the initial employees at GoFundMe and helped with their regression analysis and making sure that they were able to scale and grow. And then here at Everbowl, and he was also at Louis Vuitton for years. With us, he's our chief operating officer and also is the head of our We Build facility to make sure that our stores are being built properly and that the operations are all dialed in. We have Brian Augustine, our chief development officer, as well as more on the franchise side. So anyone who's interested in a franchise will have a lot of conversations with him. His background was with Trader Joe's for 14 years, helping open new stores in new markets. I think he opened 5 or 6 of their actual stores and developing people and building processes internally and making sure that everybody who comes to Everbowl University understands who we are and what we are. And at the same time, he's also on the franchise sales side to make sure that we find the right franchisee. Because for us, the biggest fear I had with franchising is winners and losers. And that's why I never wanted to do it. I didn't want, at 20 franchisees, 15 of them to be making money and 5 of them to be losing money. Of course, we're at the corporate level making money. And then that just didn't seem like a good process for us. We didn't want a franchise for all the reasons that people are getting nervous. And knowing that we have our team in place and actually being pushed by Saruya Private Equity, which is the private equity group behind us, and they are masters in the franchise food space. I highly recommend people check them out because they have like 18,000 franchisees in 60 countries. They're Yogan Frus and Pinkberry and Hot Dog on a Stick and Round Table Pizza and Swenson's and Yogurties and all these cool brands.
What do they give you? So I like that. I like that you've, 2 things. One, I want to go back to why did you take money from them? It wasn't just for money. The other thing is back to your guy that's selling franchises, and there's a level of supporting franchises too, right? He does both, kind of dual
Correct.
roles. One of the challenges in the franchising system, they get with the salesperson, and then they get handed over to operations after they're done being sold, and that's a night and day difference. Operations like, why did you let this person in? And the salesperson's like, because there's a commission involved, or because I had, I needed to. It's my job to bring franchisees in. But when you have, again, just going back to that kind of a word, alignment. And so I like that aspect. Now, most franchises don't have that, and you don't have to have that. Most time it's different roles, but that is something that's unique that I do like, because he's not only helping them see if this is the right opportunity for them, he's seen if they're the right fit for Everbowl, because he's going to have to live with them for a long time himself.
And there's no commission. I mean, that for us, we're not selling. That's the thing. We're not selling franchises at this time. We've actually never have. We had 500 franchise requests before we even decided to franchise. We are basically meeting people and seeing if they fit our culture and our brand. And if they do, we have a saying here: let's find a reason not to do this, and if we can't, then let's do it. And there's just no reason to force it. So the cool thing is, like, the franchise sales department is Brian and me. You'll meet with us both. Brian on the forefront with a couple meetings. He'll obviously get through all the details with you and go through all the nitty gritty, and then we'll have another call, and you'll also meet Eric, because we don't have salespeople here. We have us, the executives, and we don't get a commission or any benefit of selling you a franchise. So really, it's an interview. It's a dual interview. You're interviewing us, and we're interviewing you. And we have turned down people that have plenty of money. Money is not the thing we're looking for. Obviously, if at the same time, we've financed people who don't have the money because they're perfect, right? If you're a perfect fit, we want you to open a store. If you're not, we don't. And if you don't have the money, we'll help you. If you do have the money, phenomenal. But for us, it's more about expanding the Everbowl family, because once you join our family, you're family. And so we're stuck with each other. And I want it to be harmonious. I want it to be win-win. I want our visions to be aligned, our whys to be aligned. And I want to make sure we can meet or exceed your expectations and goals. Because if your expectations and goals are bigger than what we can do, you're going to be unhappy. And why do we want to do that? So That's been really cool. And why we took Saruya's money, it wasn't just like that. So they found us, being that they were big in the yogurt and ice cream business for 30 some odd years. They're the founders of Yoga and Fruits, which has 1,500 locations. They own Pinkberry and, like I said, Yogurty, Swenson's. They used to own Kahala Brands, which was Cold Stone Creamery and Blimpie Subs and Taco Time. They used to be on the board and investors in Jamba Juice. And they found us. And through the relationship, we were talking with them for months, and we weren't franchising. And they were like, you should franchise. And we're like, we're not franchising. And so it didn't seem like a good fit, but luckily they are very smart and have forgotten more about this industry than I will
Yep.
probably ever learn. Aaron Saruya, who's awesome, awesome human being, awesome group. Basically, we became friends and we just kept talking. He said, Jeff, we want to get involved with you guys. And I'm confident eventually you'll see that franchising is the better way to grow because you bring in other great minds. And there's so many benefits that you start to realize about franchising that I just was too naive and ignorant to understand back then. You start to learn, like McDonald's, the Big Mac was created by a franchisee, right? The Egg McMuffin was created by a franchisee. Some of their biggest sellers were created by increasing the mind share of your company by adding new owners who have a vested interest in continuing to move the needle and disrupt the brand and stay relevant and do all these amazing things. And they've proven that they can do it at scale properly, where everyone's happy in a win-win situation. And so they joined us in 2018, and we only started franchising in March of 2020. But it was great because having their perspective in our whole process, having their experience on our team, being able to leverage them for questions and understanding how to do this the right way has been invaluable, truly invaluable. And so it made us feel like we could do it and do it remarkably well.
One of my friends, I was texting him yesterday, and he's starting to work on a franchise as well, a franchisor. He's been in franchising for a long time, like myself. And he said, "What was the biggest challenge that you had, or the biggest things that you learned launching your own brand, or the thing that you were most grateful for?" And it was easy. Of Josh Skolnick. Josh Skolnick is my co-founder with me. He's launched two brands, one from scratch, one he bought out, and that's what we did with Mighty Dog. And so I said I could go to him. He had the answers. He had the experience. And even though I have more franchising experience than he does because I've been in the industry longer, he's got the experience being a franchisor. And so smart of you to partner with somebody like that. Like you said, they've forgotten more than most people ever know in
Hmm.
franchising. That's incredible. What are some other things that you want to talk about before I let you go, that you think people that are looking at, they're right now on the fence, like, I wonder if I should reach out to Jeff? And this is the purpose of this podcast, because if this is you, you do have an interest, I want you to get in touch with Jeff. We're going to give you the information and all of that. So, like, if somebody's on the fence, I wonder if I should inquire or should inquire, what would you say to that person?
Well, I would say it's worth the inquiry because it's better if we find out a reason. Like I said, let's find a reason not to do it, and then we won't. But if we can't, let's do it. And there's no harm in reaching out, going to our website, filling out a form, contacting us, calling me. It doesn't make a difference how. But let's become friends and let's understand, because at the same time, and I can say this to you as an entrepreneur business owner, if you have any thoughts about it, we're at the precipice of really expansive growth, and the opportunity to join us, I'm going to say, is in the near term. Just like if I want to open a McDonald's, the time was probably 20 years ago. Right? It's hard to find new territories. It's hard to get into that collective group or that fraternity. We're looking to find the right people to grow our brand nationally. We have franchisees now across the country. We've signed some in Florida all the way, so coast to coast, but we're looking to fill it all in and find more locations. And we would love to find the right people. And I think what we offer is unique, fun, and dynamic. And if you just like to be around good people and you like business and you want to make some money, and whether you're going to be owner operator and you're trying to figure out how to take control of your financial freedom, the beauty here, without being able to get too much into the details of the numbers, is that our goal is to help you open three, four, five, six of these very quickly. And that is our incentive. We are aligned from that. We're not at that point where we're just optimizing like a lot of the more experienced or established brands. We're a growth brand. So your success is paramount to our success. But at this moment, we are totally aligned. Obviously, when you have 1,000 units and you're a McDonald's, it's a different business. It's a different business model. That's more just optimization. So if you're sitting on the sidelines seeing this and you're interested and you just want to, or you just want to try the food and you don't want to be a franchisee, come on in, give us a call. Let's become friends. But we're looking to always meet new people. And that was why I was excited to jump on today.
You know what's interesting? This reminds me of use McDonald's as an example, and obviously you cannot get a McDonald's now. I think you have to
Right.
flip burgers for 10 years and then start working your way into it. That's the application process. But crumble cookies, that
Mhm.
is a more recent example. And I have friends that have tried to buy that brand. I have friends that own they're franchisees. And then I have people that have tried to, and it's just next to impossible because they're pretty much sold out in every market and they're not that old of a brand. Is there some similarities that you see between yourself and Crumble?
Well, I think so. I mean, obviously, we're on completely different ends of the spectrum as far as
Yeah.
health and wellness and the unevolved lifestyle. Um,
Complete. Well, no, that's absolutely it. I mean, you're very, but from the business, from getting started, theirs is more expensive than yours. But it just reminds me of there's all of a sudden Crumble was on the scene, and it was too late for most people, and that's what I'm getting at.
Yep, and I think that's what happens, right? It happens in business all the time, which is one of the 5 core values that I have, and I recommend people take an inventory of your own core values and find stuff that are aligned, and obviously the first 2 we went over, which is make friends and have fun. But the other ones, one of them is do it now. And too often we sit on the sidelines hemming and hawing, and opportunities just kind of go by the wayside. And we sit there going, when are we going to find that opportunity? And I never wanted that for my own life. And I'm not using this to tell you to call Everable. This is just business 101
Hmm.
entrepreneurship. I mean, now you're getting to my other passion of entrepreneurship, but the do it now idea, which is, yeah, you're right. Because if you come across opportunity and you sit on the sidelines waiting, well, someone else is going to come and seize it. And then it is too late. And Crumble is a great example. Obviously, we have so much to learn, and we aspire to be as good of a franchisor as Crumble and do the same things they've done. And, we are not shy to learn and steal knowledge from others. I mean, when I start, there's no restaurateurs in our company when we started, right? And so I learned from Steve Ells and Howard Schultz. And I reverse engineered what Chipotle did and what Starbucks did and all these great brands that came before us because they're beaming examples of success. They've proven out a formula that if you can reverse engineer and apply it to your concept, you can duplicate. And luckily, as we mentioned, Wags Capital, they're big franchisees in Crumble as well. They're the group that bought 20 Everbowls. They own, I think, 7 or 10 Crumble cookies. And they were with Crumble first, and it's funny you bring them up because they said there's a lot of similarities from us to them as far as our focus, starting to focus more on technology, our focus on how we create a system for our franchisees. Because if you join our family, the reason you're joining our family is you believe in our brand, you believe in our why, and you want to help promote it, and you want to make money doing it, and you want to create that opportunity. And so, I think Crumble is similar in the sense that they have their why. I don't know it personally because I'm not that ingrained into their model. I have had their cookies; they are delicious. So I give them credit; they make a damn good cookie, and I like what they're doing. Obviously, I don't have any behind the scenes knowledge or information. I'm not a franchisee. I don't know the founders or the parent company at all. I can't speak too detailed, but yes, I do hope that we become. Everbowl was in 2019 one of America's top 40 hottest fast casual startups, and in 2020 we were on the top 100 movers and shakers list at the National Restaurant Association. So all of that on the corporate side. So I think we have a good opportunity, and if we partner with the right people, I think we can get there, and that's what's really exciting. And if you want to be a part of something early on and own the opportunity to not just have one store, but maybe grow with us and really take control of your financial freedom and take control of what you're doing on your investment side, then give us a call and let's see if we can do it.
I'm going to have a bonus question here in a second that goes a little bit
Okay.
different direction, but what's the best way to reach you? Just jump on the website?
Well, so yeah, if you go to everbowl.com and you click franchise, you can obviously start there. That will immediately create you a profile for you in our system, and then Brian will schedule that first call. And it's just a meet and greet. There is no responsibility or pressure on any of this. We are not a pressurized salespeople. We actually are going to talk you out of it. You're going to feel like, why are they talking me out of this? It's because again, we are looking to make sure it's a right fit. It's the dual interview. Is your personality aligned with ours? That's the first criteria. If it is, and we're all about making friends and having fun and promoting an unevolved lifestyle. Then we get into the business economics and we see if it makes sense for you. And then we get into the location to see if the locations work. And then we get into the details. And so it's a little bit of a process, but worst case, all we do is make friends out of it. And there's nothing, at the end of the day, that's not the end of the world.
That's perfect. Thanks for coming on. I have one bonus question. There's a lot of people out there, Jeff, that have a really cool concept. They're entrepreneurs and they are thinking about scaling through franchising versus any other way. So with 3 minutes left, what advice would you have for the successful entrepreneur that is thinking about scaling through franchising?
I would say make sure you really understand your business. I think the mistake I have seen with a lot of franchise concepts is they franchise too early. We opened 28 stores and we really got to understand our business, what works, what doesn't work. I failed stores and figured out why they failed long before I let a franchisee do that. I think scaling through franchising is amazing. I mean, we have 26 stores being built right now. We have 32 open. So we're really doubling our entire count through franchise. It's a great opportunity to expand the mind share in your company and bring great people together. I would say, again, measure twice and cut once, and find out who they are and make sure you're aligned with them on all fronts before you sign. Because once you sign, you can't really undo that and wind that back. And one bad franchisee or one bad relationship sometimes negates 10 good ones, and you just don't want that. And you don't want that for them either. You don't want people to lose money on your brand or feel bad or feel mistook. So focus on it. But definitely, I think scaling through franchising. I'm on the other side of the coin. I think franchising is phenomenal, and I kind of wish I would have started a little earlier, having had the knowledge. But it took me a while to smarten up and get up to speed.
Well, thanks for coming on.
Well, thank you for having me. This was great, and again, I'm a huge fan of your show, and it's an honor to get the opportunity.
One last thing for anybody listening, Jeff has been very humble on his background and what he's done. So the things that you're hearing is just the tip of the iceberg for this man. He is an extremely successful, charismatic entrepreneur that has helped a lot of other entrepreneurs. And for him coming on my show is an honor because I know the big names of the franchise or of the podcast that he's been on. And so it's been an honor. Thanks, my friend.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Franchise Secrets Podcast. Whether you're watching or listening, please make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel and to whatever channel you're listening on. If you want my help with anything from buying a franchise to franchising your business, please visit franchisesecrets.com.